takes the counselor takes the counselee or the client through a talking process whereby they explore the issues on ground. They explore the issues or the problems on the table, giving clarifications. He gives clarification on that issue, bringing light and perspective, bringing light and new perspective to that issue on the counseling table. Developing coping mechanisms on how to handle that issue. If not, offering solution on how to come out from that issue, on how to reposition that person a victor in the midst of that crisis. And so counseling is a professional aspect, is a professional undertaking. And we saw that counseling being an art, it entails you developing skills, acquiring skills on how to handle issues that are presented to you on the counseling table. Having said that, we also understood that, therefore, appropriate knowledge is very important. The right kind of knowledge. And as you know, knowledge talks only about information, helpful information that will make the person to offer the right solution to a particular problem. And so counselors are therefore supposed to be experienced expertise, people who have gained some knowledge and developed such knowledge into practical wisdom in order to help people going through issues. We have equally mentioned that many of the issues that are presented in the counseling table are issues, are psychological issues and emotional issues. Psychological issues, they are issues that when people go through, sometimes they cannot think right. They can no more think right. And therefore, they need the input of the counselor to make better decisions. Take, for example, emotional issues are issues that when counselors, when counselors or clients face, it overrides their thinking patterns. They can no longer reason well because their emotions are going into their logical senses. And because of that, sometimes they can take decisions based on what they are feeling, not based on what is right, appropriate, or correct. When someone is angry, he may say a lot of things out of that anger. When someone is irritated, he may take some harsh decisions that at the end may not be beneficial to that person. And so handling emotional and psychological issues is very, very important. And this is the work of the counselor, is to offer the right skills, tools, and techniques that is to acquire and possess these right skills, tools, and techniques in order to help the counselee or the client go through his or her situation successfully without losing themselves or without losing out on their relationship or their goals and all of that. And so we have equally seen the importance of emotional intelligence, that emotional intelligence is very important aspect for the counselor to develop. And as you have seen in the course, emotional intelligence is the ability to handle an issue positively and constructively for the benefit, for your benefit and the benefit of others. Managing your own emotions positively and constructively. And so when people are in situations, their emotions can override. But if the counselor is not skilled enough with this quality of emotional intelligence, he may not be able to manage the emotion of the other party. And so having this quality of being able to manage your own emotion positively and constructively will equally enable you to manage the emotions of others in cases of trauma, in cases of conflict, in cases of misalignment, in cases where there is conflict. And so all of these we have seen as introductions to this very important aspect of our course, counseling skills and technique. We have seen the different skills that is required for a counselor. We have seen the skills of active listening, which englobes or kind of includes communication in general as a skill, because counseling is all about communication. And in communication, we know communication involves not only talking, but listening. Communication involves verbal and non-verbal communication. And in communication, we also know communication has to do with issues of maybe just body language, those expressions. And we've seen all of some of these skills summarily of how counselors must develop that. We talk of active listening. We talk about the ability to ask the right questions. And here we consider questions like open-ended questions, not asking closed questions, which will enable the client to immediately respond directly, but ask open-ended questions or probing questions that permit the counselor to open up. Because most of the counselee to open up, because most often the counselee or the client before you on the table sometimes does not want to open up, have a lot of issues, hiding a lot of issues, and may not want to open up. And so the kind of questions that you ask will enable the counselee to open up. And you as a counselor, that is your skill that you employ in order to push the person to say what he or she was not even ready to say. We have seen skills like paraphrasing what the person said and putting it in your own language. It enables the person to know that you really got the person, and then you have the full attention of the person. We've seen the skills of interpretation After listening, you interpret what the person said. And so we saw a lot of these counseling skills. We saw the skill of empathy, putting yourself in the person's issue. And then we saw a lot, which I advise you to go back and look at those notes or review the video. And so today we are going to go straight to counseling techniques. And in counseling techniques, you will still find a lot of things, a lot of skills that we have already seen in techniques coming into. Because there are not only one kind of techniques. Different schools of thought have different techniques. And so we will try to explore as much as possible some of the techniques. Now, there are many different techniques that counselors can use with their clients. Let's look at the first technique, the first spheres of influence. Spheres of influence. Spheres of influence. The notes that I'm giving you, I'm taking you from the recent notes that I did with some research, because I lost my computer, is having some issues, not being able to open. But after that, I'm going to still forward to you maybe the video of the last counseling techniques that I did, in addition to what I am giving today. Or if time permits, we will go on to those other parts of the techniques, because there are many, many techniques. And so I said, technique number one, spheres of influence. This assessment tool will get the individual to look at areas of their life and see which areas may be impacting and influencing them. That is, in this technique, having listened to your client or counselee, you are trying to explore with the client the areas around the person's life that may be impacting and influencing them, their current behavior, their current change, their current reaction. You are trying to explore, having listened to them, what are the influencing, what are the things, what are the areas of life that are influencing their behavior. The person's job is to figure out which systems in their life give them strength and which ones give them stress. Some spheres of influence to consider are themselves, immediate family, friends, husband or wife, extended family, job or school, community, culture or religion, the church that the person goes through, and any external influences. So this therapy focuses on trying to study to understand what area in their spheres of influence, in the spheres of influence of the client, is impacting or influencing their life negatively. It's responsible for their behavioral change. It's responsible for what they are going through. For example, a couple might be having issues, but after listening to the couple, you are able to deduce that maybe this couple is listening to somebody that is influencing the character, the present character and behavior of that couple, of that particular partner of the couple. And so the therapy on the spheres of influence is focuses on why you are listening to the client talk their issue. You want to clarify the issue. You want to explore the issue with the client, but basically focusing on understanding which area is responsible for their action now. Maybe your husband. Maybe your husband, since he started working with a particular friend, maybe the wife, since she started going to a particular church and listening or receiving a particular kind of doctrine and teaching, has changed. Or maybe since the person got a particular job, since he got this particular job, he has changed. His way of doing things have changed. So you as a counselor, these techniques focus on identifying the influence from a particular sphere of influence. The next therapy or technique, clarification. Clarification. A counselor should often ask their client to clarify what they are telling them to make sure they understand the situation correctly. This will help the counselor avoid any misconceptions or avoid them having to make any assumptions that could hinder their feedback. So, as the counselee or client is explaining to you the problem, the therapy on clarification, which, as you understand, is infringing on what we have talked about, interpretation of after listening to the client. When you are interpreting the issue, you want to get clarification from the counselee or the client, just to make sure that you are on the same page with the client, that you understand the issue on ground, so that you should not give assumption or misinterpret the issue on ground. So clarification in therapy, you are trying to use questions so that the client can interpret or can clarify where the issue that he or she is explaining, so that you understand the root problem. So that you understand the root of the problem. Okay. The next point is client expectations. Client expectation. When a person enters therapy, they should voice their opinion about counseling and their beliefs about treatment. That is, anyone, when they come to the counseling table, the first issue is they should be able to voice their opinions about counseling and their beliefs about the treatment, what they are expecting. So in the beginning, they should be able to communicate with their counselor as to what they expect to get out of counseling. Please excuse me. And she is laughing. So, thank you. So the client expectation, in the beginning, they should be able to communicate with their counselor as to what they expect to get out of counseling. This can help the counselor guide and direct their counseling accordingly. Okay, so client expectation is a technique in which the person comes before the counseling table And the first thing is you ask the person, what is your expectation about the issue? So that as you are counseling the person, you will know how you guide the session as a counselor. What are your expectations? Now your husband is behaving this way. Now your wife is behaving this way. Now your family members are behaving this way. What are your expectations? So it's a technique that will help you to guide the counseling session towards that expectation. In as much as you are trying to, your goal in the definition of counseling is to clarify the issue. No, one is to explore the issue on ground, clarify the issue, develop coping mechanism, and then as much as possible, offer a solution. But with all of this, as a master skill professional in counseling, what you are, the first thing that you do is also ask the client their expectation. It will help you to guide the counseling process. The next point is confrontation. Confrontation is a technique. On confrontation, we do not mean confronting the therapist or vice versa. The confrontation that should happen here is within the client. The confrontation that should happen is within the client. That is, the client should be able to self-examine themselves during counseling. However, the speed at which they do this should be discussed between the counselor and the client. That is, in your counseling, you will use ways in which will push the person to confront himself, his identity or character with the issue and ground. You are bringing the person to be face to face with that issue. Because the issues on the counseling table, most often people don't want to face it. They want to make excuses on maybe it was the wife that did this, or is the husband that did this, or is the family members that is because of this. So you are trying to make the person come face to face with that issue and take responsibility. Sometimes people come to the counseling table, they know the right thing, the right decision to take, but they don't want to. But through the therapy of confrontation, you bring the person to face to take that right decision. The next point is congruence. Congruence. Congruence is spelled CONGRUENCE. This has to do with the counselor being genuine with their feedback and beliefs about their client's situation and progress. The more authentic and true they are with their counseling, the more that their client and work to grow and benefit from their help. So, congruence, we are saying, is the counselor, after listening to the client, listening to the counselee, wants to be genuine, sincere in their feedback on what he feels about the situation, telling the person the truth face to face. and say, this is what I really feel about your issue. Such kind of feedback is the same like confrontation. This is real what I really feel about your actions. This is what I really feel about this whole issue. So the counselor is being genuine with his feedback and beliefs about the client's situation and progress. Now, the client's situation or progress, because as you are counseling the person, the sessions can be maybe in the second or third session or fourth session, you are able to say that, I feel that you are not cooperating with the process of counseling. I feel that you are being unnecessarily rigid. I feel that you are really complicating. Your wife is doing every effort. I feel that you are not really cooperating. So that's congruence. You are trying to give an objective, genuine, and sincere feedback, which will help the counseling. Because remember that we have, in talking about the counseling skills, we mentioned the fact that one of the skills is the counselor is not biased. He must have an independent kind of mindset, not biased, not taking sides, but giving this genuine, objective feedback through a skill of congruence is helping the person see that in as much as I am here to help you, in as much I am here to guide you through this thing, I feel that you are really making things difficult. As our objective feedback. The next point is core condition. Core conditions. The technique in counseling goes over some essential traits that the counselor needs to integrate for effective counseling, which are positive regard, empathy, congruence, or genuineness, warmth. Essential traits that the counselor needs to integrate for effective counseling. And I said, these core conditions are the conditions of positive regard. Always having a positive outlook to the situation. Trying to guide the couple or the person before you to a positive outlook about the situation. And this, in the other counseling skills that will come after, which we may see, is equally called positive eye. You are trying to look at to the positive outlook, having a positive outlook, trying to push a positive energy, staying optimistic no matter the issue. And then I said some of these core conditions on this particular therapy includes empathy, congruence, which we have seen, which talks about genuineness, objective genuineness, and sincere feedback. And then the warmth that the counselor is trying to implore in the counseling process. Put warm and empathy in the bracket of love, compassionate, and trying to make the person understand that I understand what you are going through and understand how difficult the issue on ground is. I understand how difficult it is. I know it's very difficult to take this, but it is possible. You can make at something positive out of this. It is not at, this may not be the end of the issue. This may not be the end of your life. You are staying positive. Je n'ai pas de temps maintenant. Okay, so those are some of the core conditions. And then we will have encouraging. Encouraging. Uncle Lady says the battery may disappoint us. Battery is low. Uncle Lady, do something so that we have the recordings. Encouraging. Being encouraging as a counselor for your client is an essential technique that will help facilitate confidence and respect between both parties. This technique asks that the counselor focus on the client's strength and are set to help them set themselves in a positive light. This will help with the client's progression. This will help in the client's progression. So this technique focuses on this therapy on encouraging. And that therapy is called positive psychology. Positive psychology. I've mentioned it. The next point is engagement. Engagement. As a therapist, having a good yet professional relationship with your client is essential. However, there are bound to be difficult moments in counseling session, which will require influential engagement on the counselor's behalf. So, influential engagement. You engage the counsel, influence them. Remember, not on their decision, but to stay positive, to stay engaged, because at some time it may be feel discouraging, it may feel difficult. Sometimes they are not even ready to talk about the issue. But you engage them and keep them on the process. So what we're saying is, as the counseling evolves, it may get to a point where it's very difficult and the counselee or the client may not want even to talk about the issue. Because each time you want to talk about the issue, if he irritated, a lot of things come and then he just want to back out. So the way you as the counselor, you engage the person, encourage you, empathetic, congruence, it will help to keep the session going. And there's another technique, they say focusing. This technique, focusing, this technique involves the counselor demonstrating that they understand what their client is experiencing by using non-judgmental attention without any words. Focusing can help the counselor determine what the client needs to obtain next from their services. So, using non-judgmental attention without any words. Focusing on the solution. Staying positive. The next therapy talks about immediacy, like immediacy. This technique, the technique of the counselor speaking openly about something that is occurring in the present moment. This helps the client learn from their real life experiences and apply this to their reactions for the other past situation. While you are counseling, maybe the person reacts in a particular way, speaks in a particular tone, acts in a way unbecoming, and then immediacy, the technique of immediacy, you point that issue, you point that, and then you relate that. If you can do like this, it means that it is possible that you could have treated your wife like this, possible that you could have treated your husband like this, which is not right. And that so that point of immediacy is trying to strike the iron while it is hot on a particular thing that you have observed, which is obvious for everybody. So the person will not be able to deny it. Maybe, people come to the counseling table and most often each partner may be accusing the other and blaming the other for something. So this is a way of addressing the issue right there on ground. Okay. The next point is miracle question. Miracle question is a technique. Miracle question is a technique. The technique of asking a question of this sort will help the client see the world in a different way or perspective. A miracle question could be something along the lines of, what will your world look like if a miracle occurred? What will that miracle be and how will it change things? For example, what if your husband changed? And obviously, what the person is saying is, this man cannot change. This man is fond of this. This man. Now your question is, what if he changed? What if he changes? What if? So it's a miracle question. And notice that the miracle question is like you are looking at the best scenario of events. In the best scenario of events, everything being equal, what if he withdraws all these conditions? What if he changes? What if he does this? What if he does that? What if you have a possibility of traveling? What if you have this? What if your husband? So it's a kind of miracle question. And the miracle question is a question in which you are asking the client or the counselor or the counselee on the possibility of change, the possibility of a solution, which to the person seems as if it is impossible.